Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this session of MFiles Quick Tips. Today, we're going to be talking about pins inside of MFiles. Let's get started and see what our agenda brings today. I'm going to go through creating pins inside of MFiles. I'll talk about being able to group your pins into different groups. Then we'll talk about some of the editing functions that you have in the pins area. And then I'll answer a very important question. Where did favorites go? And what happened there? So let's get started. So inside of MFiles, you have the capability of creating pins. And basically what pins allow you to do, well, let me back up a little bit. Pins was added to MFiles to replace favorites. So a while back, MFiles took away the capability of adding more favorites and replaced that with pins. So to add a pin, let me search for some documents here so we can add a couple. So we'll do invoice. Okay, let me go to my first PDF here. So I'm going to select it. And then over here in the metadata card, we have some icons. And when I hover my mouse over one of these icons, a tooltip will appear. When I click on the pin icon, it turns blue to show that it has been pinned. So that document is now pinned. Let me do another way. So let me go to my next invoice. I can right click on it and I can go to pin. I get a confirmation screen that it has been pinned. A third way to do this, let me select another invoice, is holding down my left mouse button. I can drag it up here in the navigation to pinned and release. I get a confirmation screen that it has pinned. I'm going to add some more documents so we can use the grouping feature. So go into some marketing. So I have an MFiles app feature here. Again, the first method is to click the pin icon. That is a toggle on and a toggle off functionality. Go to my next document. I can right click, pin, get a confirmation screen. Go to Stearns Bank, hold down my left mouse button and drag it up to the navigation area for pinned and release. Again, a confirmation screen. Let's add a couple of applications we have out there as well. So again, going through the three methods. The first method, select the document, pin it. Confirmation with the blue icon, Barney Fife. I'm going to right click, select pin. Confirmation screen, Flash Gordon. This time I'm going to drag Flash up to pinned and release. And I get a confirmation screen. Now, what I've been doing here is I've been pinning documents. Please understand that you can pin any object in MFiles. For example, let's say I want this application workflow pinned. I'm going to right click on it and select pin, and I get a confirmation screen. Okay, so we have a pretty good idea of how to pin objects. Let's talk about grouping pins. So I'm going to go to the pinned area up here in navigation. So now these are all ungrouped, and I can collapse it by clicking here. So they're under a section called ungrouped. To add more groups, I go up to the top level, my pinned items, go all the way over to the right, click on the plus sign. My first group is going to be applications. Another group is going to be invoices. Another group will be marketing. And a final group will be views. Okay, how do we group it? Good question. Because right now, none of these groups have any documents in them or objects. So you take one of your documents in the ungrouped area, hold down your mouse button, and drag it to where you want it. And a box appears you can release. We just added that vendor invoice to invoices. Let me do it again. This is marketing, application, application, marketing. Notice how it gives me the box to the right. So I go to that area and that's where I can drop it in. Another invoice, and I can position where I want it also. This is a view. So let's go to views, another marketing, and another application. Okay, so we've now grouped all of our documents, or I should say all of our applications. Now, as you take a look at this, it sort of gets a little busy. So let's talk about what we can change or editing that we can do in the pinned area. Let's go back up to my pinned items. Over here to the far right, we have the capability of collapsing all the groups. Makes it nice and neat. Notice you have a count in each one of those areas. Pretty handy. Now, let's assume that you have a very large group, or I should say groups, and you want to find something in that group. You could come up here into the search bar, click search. This search now is limited to just the pinned items. So I'm going to type in, I have an application from a Mike Conway that I pinned. I'm going to type in Mike and notice what it did. Pretty slick. And then I could click on Mike here. And that brings up Mike's information. Another thing in the editing is down at the actual object that you have pinned. And again, you can see these three vertical dots. When I click here, I have the capability I can open, I can show in listing view, rename it, I'll come back to that one, unpinned, and open the metadata card. Let's talk about rename. Now this is pretty cool when you think about it. We're not actually renaming the document or the object. We're renaming the shortcut in pins. Let me show you. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say, oh, Mike Conway, we want to set up an interview. Okay, so I'm going to press enter. That changed now from Mike Conway to that. So let me do something here real quick. I'm going to click home, go back to my pinned items, and when I go into applications, I can see it says set up interview ASAP. Now, let me check something. I'm going to go here and I'm going to do a search for applications again. The document is still called Mike Conway. If I go back to pinned, my shortcut, set up interview ASAP, when I click on it, brings up the Mike Conway document for that application. Pretty slick. So you have that capability of editing your pins that way. Now let's assume that there's some pins that you want to remove, or you want to remove a group. It happens. So let's say that I no longer want my views here. So I go over here. When I click on these three dots, I have the capability of renaming it or remove. Now, when I remove it, it asks me what I want to do with that pinned item. So in this case, I'm going to say unpin. Now I could keep it pinned. If I do that, let's see what happens. So put it down in the ungrouped area, but got rid of the group. Again, remember, if you want to collapse them all, it's this simple. I can collapse or expand all of them. And if there's one group that I want to see in particular, I can click right in front of that group to see that area inside of that group. So a lot of functionality in the grouping. Let's talk about where did favorites go? So just a quick reminder, pins replaced favorites inside of M-Files. You are no longer able to create new favorites, but you can access the favorites that you have created. Now, if I take a look at my task pane, I do not see favorites. Where did it go? It's still there. It's underneath other views. When I expand that, I see my favorites. Now, if I want to add favorites back to my task pane, I can. You can do that by selecting, right-clicking, and add shortcut to task area. When I do that, favorites has now been added back to my task area, giving me that flexibility of still accessing some of those favorites that I still have. I do want to cover real quickly some additional things and help that are available to you from the Marco's website. On the enterprise content, and you go to Mark or MPOL solution, we have learn more information. Here you can access some of our webinars as well as some of our e-learning portal information. When you scroll down to the very bottom of the page, you have a knowledge base for any type of questions you might have. Also down at the bottom of that page, you have the capability of accessing events and webinars that might be coming up in the future. And it gives you the chance to register. Our next webinar coming up is going to be creating an assignment October 17th. Don't forget to register for the M-File Security User Group webinar coming up September 28th. As a reminder, please take a moment and complete a survey at the end of today's webinar. You can use your smartphone to scan the QR code on the screen that will take you to the survey. Let us know what you would like to see as a quick tip. Our next quick tip will be coming October 17th, and that will be talking about creating an assignment in M-Files. I would like to thank you for joining today's webinar. Everybody have a great day.